Did it cross your mind that a suicide might have been involved?
It wouldn't be uncommon for someone to jump off the bridge.
We had to get the body out of the water as soon as possible.
The autopsy showed death was a result of manual strangulation.
The case shifted from an accidental drowning to a homicide.
Just something nobody's family should ever have to go through.
My whole life just crushed.
His brother reported that he had taken his credit cards and fled.
They looked at his computer and found this spreadsheet. Very sexualized descriptions of young girls.
Was it clear they were investigating a hardcore predator?
Absolutely. These were children. The scars that he left on these victims are going to be with them the rest of their lives.
Hi, I'm Paula Zahn. Tonight, we're on the case in Clatsop County, Oregon. The quaint community at the mouth of the Columbia River is a popular tourist spot in the summertime. But it was a shocking discovery in the area's off-peak months that made it the unlikely backdrop for a disturbing murder mystery. The investigation into that crime would reveal an almost unimaginable trail of terror and put law enforcement on the hunt for a deadly predator. February 24th, 1998. It was just before dawn on a chilly morning when Von Baldwin began his daily routine.
Every morning I'd get up 5 o'clock, take my dogs to the beach. I'd let them out and let them run.
Those pre-sunrise hours along the shoreline of the Columbia River were normally Von's quiet time to drink his coffee and listen to the surf. But his dogs quickly alerted him that his morning would not be peaceful.
Normally they just take off and start running. Well, they ran straight to the water that morning, ran right down to the water's edge.
Von wondered if his dogs had found a dead seal or sea lion, so he got out of his car to take a closer look.
I went down to look at it, and I noticed right away that it was a human body. And I had the headlights on it, and I got really close, and I seen it was a young girl.
Von immediately jumped into his car to call 911. Warrenton police officer Alfonso Fontana was dispatched to the scene. By the time he arrived, the sun was coming up, and the body was drifting back into the current.
So when we first arrived here, we had to get the body out of the water as soon as possible. So I went up here to the beach, and she was out there about 7-8 feet in the water, and I grabbed her and I pulled her out of the water. And there was no signs of life on her, and the tide was going out. And if we didn't pull her out right away, she probably would have been swept out to sea.
Neither Officer Fontana nor Von was certain about the cause of the young girl's death. Could either of them get any sense how long the body had been there?
It was a very recent death. This wasn't a body that had been in the water a long time.
The victim appeared to be a teenager, 5'6", 110 pounds, and she was fully clothed.
I notified dispatch and I advised them to contact the Clatsop County Sheriff's Office to assist.
Detective Kristen Hanthorne was among the next wave of law enforcement to descend on the beach. When you got the call, what did you think you were responding to?
Well, frequently people fall overboard off a boat or a ship, and so we didn't really know what we had. But once I got there and examined her body, it didn't look like the standard drowning.
Did it cross your mind that a suicide might have been involved?
It did. We have the Astoria-Megler Bridge that crosses from Oregon into Washington. You could see it from the beach. So it wouldn't be uncommon for someone to jump off the bridge.
But there were none of the telltale injuries you'd expect to see if someone had fallen almost 200 feet to their death. And the young woman's clothing raised more doubts about the theory.
It was a cold February morning, and she didn't have a coat on. She was very lightly dressed with a blouse and jeans. Something was wrong.
Investigators believe the first step in determining what had happened was retracing the victim's last known movements. But that wouldn't be easy. Did the victim have any identification on her?
No, she was wearing some distinctive jewelry, but she had no wallet. She didn't have any identification at all.
And the teenager's face wasn't familiar to police or residents of the close-knit community. Were there any teenagers missing in the area that fit her description?
No, we didn't have any missing teenagers at that time.
I'd lived here my whole life, and I pretty well knew everybody in the town. And you could tell right away she wasn't a local kid.
Detectives hoped that the state medical examiner might provide some answers, but her report only deepened the mystery. What did the autopsy reveal had caused this young victim's death?
He determined that she died from ligature strangulation. The necklace that she was wearing is what the subject had used to strangle her. And she also had been struck in the head with enough force to cause bleeding on the brain.
Was it clear to them that this young woman had been murdered?
Absolutely. The case shifted at that point from an accidental drowning to a homicide.
Biological evidence recovered from the young girl's body appeared to reveal a motive for the crime. Was there any evidence of a sexual assault?
There was. A rape kit was done, and that did come back with evidence that this young girl had been sexually assaulted.
And a screening of the victim's blood revealed another shocking detail. What did the toxicology reports reveal?
That showed a very, very high level of morphine in this young girl's body. And that was a very significant concern because this level of morphine ultimately could have also resulted in her death.
Investigators were stunned. How had a teenager ingested a lethal dose of liquid morphine?
This is something that was not easy for people to come by, and it was concerning that maybe there was somebody else out there who'd given her this morphine and given her way too much.
A quiet fishing community was now the center of a terrifying murder investigation, and the evidence indicated a deadly sexual predator was on the loose. Law enforcement in Clatsop County, Oregon, was trying to solve a heartbreaking mystery after the lifeless body of a young woman had been discovered floating in the Columbia River. An autopsy revealed terrifying details of her last moments alive. The victim had been drugged with morphine, sexually assaulted, and strangled to death. With no leads on the teenager's name nor where she had come from, investigators turned to the public for help.
Investigators say there are no obvious clues as to how the woman ended up in the Columbia River near Fort Stevens.
Was it your idea to come up with a sketch of the victim?
Yes, it was. We took pictures of her, and a local portrait artist created a sketch.
Police also took pictures of the unusual chain the young woman had around her neck. Were there any markings on the jewelry that stood out to you?
Yes, she was wearing a necklace that had a double female symbol on it.
Local TV stations broadcast the images, asking anyone who recognized them to contact law enforcement.
She was in her mid to late teens, dyed blonde hair, about 120 pounds. Police need an ID.
Meanwhile, one mother, 75 miles away in Portland, was already pacing in her living room. Rhonda Frazier's 15-year-old daughter, Heather, had been missing for a day and a half.
My mom told me I need to go in the living room and watch the news. She's seen something and she thought it was Heather.
Did you actually see that report on TV about an unidentified murder victim?
It was an artist's picture of her. I refused to admit that it was my daughter until they aired her jewelry.
What was your reaction?
My heart dropped. Deep down, I knew it was her. I just didn't want to hear it.
But despite those desperate attempts to avoid reality, Rhonda had to find the strength to confront the nightmare.
We got a phone call on Wednesday night from Heather's family saying that they recognized the sketch. She was missing out of the Washington County, Hillsborough area.
Investigators asked Rhonda for a photograph of Heather, and the frightened mother provided one, along with something more reliable. A few years before, Rhonda Frazier had her daughter fingerprinted as a precaution.
I had fingerprints of Heather from when everyone was advertising you should get your kids fingerprinted just in case.
Now, Rhonda was praying those fingertip cards would not be proof that her precious daughter had been murdered.
Investigators compared those to the fingerprints taken from the autopsy, and they were able to make a positive identification of Heather Frazier.
Police were forced to share the devastating news with Heather's loved ones. Had you prepared yourself for the likelihood of being told that the fingerprints were a match to the victim whose body was discovered?
I don't think there's any kind of preparing for the worst thing ever. My whole life just crushed. It's a pain I never experienced before.
And before she could even process the depth of her loss, Rhonda was trying to give police a timeline of her daughter's last known movements. Take me back to the last time you saw Heather. What do you remember about that moment?
She told me she was leaving for a few hours and said, "Mommy, I love you. I'll be home by the time you're home from work." She kissed me and hugged me, and she smiled on her way out the door.
When Heather told her mother she was getting a ride to a friend's house to use the internet, Rhonda had no reason to doubt her. Heather was trustworthy and fiercely independent. What happened when you got off work? Was Heather home?
No, she was not. We were all worried.
Rhonda called her daughter's friends and checked every place Heather might have gone to, but no one had seen nor heard from the teenager. At what point did you begin to panic?
I started panicking the first night. I was on the phone every hour. I knew something was wrong.
But she never could have imagined just how much worse it had actually been. Rhonda's grief was overwhelming, but she refused to lose sight of the fact that Heather's killer was still on the loose, and she wouldn't rest until police had caught him. Detectives had just identified the victim in a heartbreaking homicide. 15-year-old Heather Frazier had been murdered, and her lifeless body discarded in the Columbia River more than 75 miles from her home. Before her death, the teenager had been drugged and sexually assaulted. Investigators wondered if there was something or someone in her personal life that might explain the brutal attack. Could you think of anyone who would have had a reason to target Heather?
No one. She had no enemies.
Heather's sister Liz was just a year younger than her and knew nearly all of Heather's friends. How would you describe Heather?
Heather was outgoing. She was driven. She was probably the best big sister you could ask for.
Were the two of you close?
Yeah, we were close. We were thick as thieves.
Investigators kept a watchful eye on Heather's funeral, looking for a lead. But they saw nothing more than an emotional goodbye to a popular teen. Do you remember seeing Heather's friends at the funeral?
Yes. There were actually so many people there that they had to stand in the back.
I know that probably didn't lift your burden, but when you look back on it, that had to have meant a lot to your family.
It did, yes. There was a lot of people there to support her.
Investigators also wanted to get a better picture of Heather's last known movements. In particular, where she had been going on the night she was last seen alive.
She was going to Martin's house to get on the internet. He was the only one she knew that had a computer.
Neither Rhonda nor Liz had ever met Marty. All Heather had told them was that he was a bit older, in his early 20s. Heather had arranged a ride, but her mother wasn't certain who had picked her up. Did you see Marty that night?
No, I seen lights in the driveway. It was dark. I just seen the car and her get in the car.
At the time, Rhonda assumed it was Marty behind the wheel. But the next day, he called looking for Heather, telling Rhonda she hadn't stopped by the night before. Detectives hoped to find more information about the mysterious Marty in the teenager's bedroom. When you searched Heather's room, what did you find?
Heather's room was kind of an attic type room. The ceilings were unfinished, and Heather had written the names of her friends and their phone numbers, their pager numbers on the ceiling. And on the wall was the name Marty and his phone number and a pager number.
What happened when they called that number?
Nobody answered that call, but they were able to use that phone number to identify Martin Johnson.
Investigators were shocked to learn that the supposedly 20-something Marty Johnson was actually 41 years old. What else did investigators learn about him?
His address and his vehicle description, a license plate, where he worked. He lived in Hillsborough with his mother and brother.
Investigators went to Marty Johnson's home to hear more about his relationship with Heather.
We went to his house and knocked on the door. We had seen lights on in the house, but nobody would come to the door. We ended up calling the residents from the neighbor's house, and finally he answered the phone and agreed to come to the door.
Johnson also agreed to come to the Washington County Sheriff's Office to answer questions. With the cassette tape rolling, Johnson began what would turn out to be one of the most unusual interviews either detective had ever conducted.
When did you talk with Heather?
Last time I talked to her, probably this week. She wanted me to meet her on Monday.
And you didn't realize that she was deceased?
No.
When did Johnson say was the last time he had seen Heather?
He said that he had last seen her the previous week. We know that he called Heather's house Tuesday a couple times asking about her and telling her family that he had not picked her up.
Johnson admitted he had plans with Heather the night she disappeared, but he insisted she never showed up at his house.
Martin claimed that he had nothing to do with Heather Frazier's disappearance or her death. He said that she had not come over to his house, that their plans had changed. He had no idea where Heather was, where she went.
As the interview progressed, Johnson became more evasive.
Are you confused with what we're asking you, or?
I'm just really tired, and I'd rather do this some other time. I'm not thinking straight at all. I can't remember. I don't even know, I'm totally out of it.
How would you describe his demeanor during the interrogation?
It's very odd. On the one hand, he would talk about how tired he was, but he was really quick to give us response to our questions. He understood what we were saying, and after about 15 minutes, he wanted to stop the interview.
Detectives were prepared to execute a search warrant for samples of Johnson's hair and DNA. But as they reviewed their paperwork, they noticed a problem. They asked Marty to wait in the room while they fixed the mistake. And that's when the unusual interview went totally off the rails. Detectives investigating the murder of 15-year-old Heather Frazier were talking with the man she was supposed to have met the night she disappeared. But instead of providing information, 41-year-old Marty Johnson frustrated detectives with his evasive answers. Then, when investigators left the interview room, Johnson did something the officers had never seen before.
One of the investigators noticed that there was something wrong with the tape recorder. Martin Johnson had stopped the tape, rewound it back to the beginning, and started recording over the recorded interview. They lost like 5.5 minutes off the beginning of the interview.
He compromised most of the interview, the background information about Heather, the conversations he'd had with Heather about meeting up with her.
How shocked were you when you walked back into the interrogation room and you saw that he had tampered with evidence?
We were very shocked.
Investigators confronted Johnson about his actions.
While we were out of the room, you erased the other tape, at least a portion of it. Why'd you do that?
You guys are not answering my questions. I'm asking you what's going on. I'm tired, and I want to go home.
And there was more bad news. The warrant police had for Johnson's DNA was void due to an administrative mistake, and it couldn't be fixed until the next morning. Detectives decided to release Johnson to avoid compromising the larger investigation.
I remember that evening we discussed whether or not to arrest him for tampering with evidence. Detective Bowman said, "We're working a murder case. We're not working a tampering case." And so we did not arrest him at that time.
At At daybreak, detectives received updated warrants for Johnson's DNA and to search his property. But before they could execute either, they received another surprise. What happened the next day?
His brother called Washington County and reported that his vehicle had been stolen by Marty and that Marty had taken his brother's credit cards and fled.
The prime suspect in Heather Frazier's murder was now a fugitive from justice. Did police issue an all-points bulletin for Martin Johnson?
Yeah, they were looking for anybody that might have information on him, his whereabouts.
Johnson had at least a 6 to 8 hour lead on detectives, and that meant he could be anywhere by now. An interstate manhunt was launched. What lengths did investigators go to try to find him?
They put out a warrant for him and brought the U.S. Marshals on board to begin the search for Martin Johnson.
Meanwhile, police executed search warrants on Johnson's property. What specifically were you looking for in his house?
We were looking for evidence that Heather had been there. We were looking for her jacket that was missing and any clues as to what had happened to her.
Crime scene technicians found no physical evidence in Johnson's home, but a potentially crucial clue was recovered. What did investigators find when they searched his car?
They ended up finding a blood smear on the trunk area of the car.
The sample was immediately sent to the crime lab for testing. Investigators also began a forensic search of Martin Johnson's computer. His files revealed a terrifying story.
On his computer, we found a spreadsheet that had 100 names on it.
It was a list Johnson compiled of girls ages 12 to 17 that included Heather Frazier.
The spreadsheet had the name, phone number, and address of these young girls, along with a physical description and then very sexual comments.
Detailing which girls he had victimized.
If they'd been sexually assaulted, if he'd had sex with them.
Investigators tracked down dozens of girls with stories about how they crossed paths with Martin Johnson.
Marty would approach young girls in downtown Portland, and he would ask them to sign a petition to get the drinking age lowered, and he asked for their names and phone numbers.
Johnson used the information to identify girls he could prey on.
He seemed like a cool guy who gave them alcohol.
But for some, it quickly became clear that Johnson had a terrifying motive.
They realized that he was really a predator. He would give them alcohol and they would pass out. Several of them woke up to Marty sexually assaulting them.
Did any of these young women report their assaults?
None of them did. They were worried about getting in trouble for drinking, and over time, this emboldened Marty, and he became more and more of a predator and took advantage of more and more of these young girls.
One of the victims provided a detail that added another layer to Johnson's crimes. She was convinced he had spiked her drink with a powerful drug. Liquid morphine. Police were stunned. Heather Frazier's toxicology report revealed she had a near lethal amount of morphine in her system when she was killed. Detectives then dug deeper.
They looked at Marty's training and experience. What they found was that he'd been a corpsman in the United States Navy and had been trained on the use of morphine as a battlefield painkiller.
Johnson also had access to the drug. He was legally cleared to administer it to his dying father.
His father was in hospice care, late-stage cancer, and he was given liquid morphine.
The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and it was clear that Heather Frazier's last moments alive were horrifying.
This was not a one-time thing. This is definitely his MO. This is what he does. He's a serial rapist.
And investigators were now convinced that Johnson had also become something even worse: a killer. Detectives trying to solve the murder of 15-year-old Heather Frazier had a prime suspect, Martin Johnson. And a forensic search of his computer uncovered disturbing evidence of the depth of Johnson's depravity. The 41-year-old had actually kept a spreadsheet with names of girls as young as 12 years old that he had drugged and sexually assaulted.
Marty had really developed a network of young underage girls. These were vulnerable, at-risk youth. These were children, and he was able to take advantage of them.
Police were confident that 15-year-old Heather Frazier had been one of those victims. But before detectives could arrest Johnson, he fled the state, and a massive nationwide manhunt had failed to bring him to justice. Then, almost 1 year later, investigators got the break they had been waiting for.
The case was aired on America's Most Wanted. The date that it aired, they immediately got a tip that Martin Johnson was living in Kissimmee, Florida.
It was Johnson's roommate who phoned in the tip. He told police that Marty was now going by the name Ty. When law enforcement followed up on the tip, Johnson wasn't at home.
The United States Marshals spoke to his roommate, and the roommate said, okay, here's the deal. Marty goes out every night, and he picks up young girls. If you come back about 2 or 2:30 in the morning, you'll probably be able to find Marty. And what I'll do is, when Marty comes home, I'll turn the porch light on.
Several hours later, U.S. Marshals saw the porch light flicker, and they entered the home to confront Johnson.
They found Marty naked, sitting on the toilet.
Is that when they arrested him?
He protested and said he wasn't Martin Allen Johnson, and he said he needed to get some clothes. Detectives took him to his bedroom, and in the bedroom, they found a number of really concerning things.
I started seeing books about being a fugitive, how to change your identity, creating fake IDs.
And even more troubling was a pile of fake contest entry cards Johnson had collected.
They found the names of young girls on them, and on the back there were very sexualized descriptions of these children. 15, flat-chested, blonde, long legs. 16, big-breasted.
And there was more.
They found photo albums where he was with young girls who were drinking. Some of them were unclothed.
Investigators also recovered a clue that appeared to connect him to the murder of Heather Frazier.
They found a newspaper clipping that talked about a young girl washed up on the shore of the Columbia River. That girl was Heather Frazier.
That had to be so chilling for these investigators. Did they view that article as a trophy?
Absolutely, that's how I looked at it.
At the police station, fingerprints ultimately confirmed the truth. The man investigators had arrested was, in fact, Martin Johnson. And while law enforcement prepared to extradite him back to Oregon, two crucial pieces of physical evidence appeared to seal the case against Johnson. First, his DNA was a match to the biological evidence in Heather Frazier's sexual assault kit.
That was critical because we needed to show that Marty had not just caused the death of Heather Frazier, but that he had done it to conceal the commission of a sexual assault.
And the blood recovered from the trunk of Johnson's car was Heather Frazier's. Was that the proof you thought you needed to show that he had transported Heather in his car?
At that point, we were absolutely able to put Heather Frazier in the trunk of Marty's Acura. And that was enough for us to know that Marty was responsible for Heather's death.
Marty Johnson was officially charged with the murder of Heather Frazier. Describe the experience of having to face Johnson in court.
I couldn't look at him. It would tear me up. I had to focus on the trial.
In the packed courtroom, investigators shared their theory of the crime. What do you think happened to Heather Frazier the night she was murdered?
Well, it's my belief that she went to Marty's house, that he drugged her, tried to have sex with her, and she fought back, and he ended up killing her and strangling her.
And then Johnson attempted to cover up the savage attack.
We believe that the suspect took Heather's body and threw it off the bridge, believed that the body would float out to the ocean and be lost forever.
But Von Baldwin and his dogs arrived at the beach to discover Heather's body, just moments before Johnson's plan could succeed.
If he would have tossed her off the Megler Bridge at the beginning of the outgoing tide, she'd have probably gone all the way out to sea. But the tide switched and the waves pushed her back up onto the beach.
When the defense began, Johnson's attorney tried to argue that Heather had accidentally drowned after his client had sex with the teenager. Johnson's defense was that he had a consensual relationship with Heather. You were outraged by that, weren't you?
Yeah, I was pretty angry about that.
Tell me why.
Well, Heather was a lesbian, so she told me she would never be interested in having a relationship, let alone a sexual relationship with a man.
The jury rejected the story as well. Johnson was found guilty and sentenced to death. But Johnson appealed the verdict, and after more than a decade of legal wrangling, his conviction was overturned. The court ruled he had inadequate representation at trial. Do you remember how you felt when you found out that Johnson's guilty verdict had been overturned and he was going to get a new trial?
I think I was really in disbelief all the way up until the trial happened.
It was very frustrating. It's difficult to have to put everybody through that again.
In the fall of 2019, prosecutor Bracken McKee presented his case at Johnson's second trial, and he had to face an entirely new account from Johnson's attorneys. What was Johnson's defense?
His defense at this trial was that she had on her own taken morphine and committed suicide.
Johnson claimed that after Heather overdosed, he panicked and dumped her body in the river. But the prosecution was able to dismantle that self-serving story with emotional testimony and hard evidence.
What we were able to show was Heather had no access to liquid morphine. And the only person in Heather's life who had access to liquid morphine was Marty. And Marty gave that morphine not just to Heather, but to many other girls.
Once again, the jury found Johnson guilty. In November of 2019, Johnson was convicted of Heather Frazier's murder for a second time.
Take me back to that moment as the verdict was being read in the second trial.
I was relieved. I think we all started crying. It was a very emotional moment.
Following the verdict, the jury asked if they could approach Heather's mother.
At that point, their job was done, and those jurors typically would go home and we'd never hear from them again. But all 12 of them sat around Heather's mom, Rhonda, to support Rhonda, and they wanted her to know how much they felt for her and what she'd gone through. In my 22 years of doing this, I've never seen anything like that before.
It had to be very touching.
It was super, super moving.
This time, Martin Johnson was sentenced to life in prison, bringing an end to more than 2 decades of torment for Heather's family.
When I left that courtroom that day, I got my life back. It's no longer about him.
And that means the Frazier family can finally focus on the way Heather lived rather than how she died.
It was something nobody's family should ever have to go through. It was hard to handle. I think about her every day.
What do you miss most about Heather?
Her smile, her eyes, her smell. If you were sad, she'd do anything to make you laugh. She was a real live angel in person. She's very missed.
At Johnson's second trial, prosecutors were unable to seek the death penalty. During the years between his 2 court cases, the laws in Oregon had been changed, and the attack on Heather Frazier no longer fit the guidelines for aggravated murder. Instead, Johnson will spend the rest of his life in prison. I'm Paula Zahn. Join us next time when we're back on the case. How many times had Michelle been stabbed?
Michelle had more than 20 knife wounds, cuts to her face, to her chest. It was brutal.
It was a heinous crime with a completely innocent victim.
This was a shocking, senseless act of violence.
When she said Michelle was murdered, it took my breath away. I could hardly speak.
We just hugged and cried. It is just such a deep grief. It's just awful.
He was a hardened criminal who was in the area at the time.
He was harassing Michelle.
He was kind of stalking her. We all thought he was involved.
Did police believe whoever murdered Michelle was someone she knew?
We don't want to have tunnel vision, but based on the violence of the crime, this person probably had a real hatred for Michelle.
Hi, I'm Paula Zahn, and tonight we're on the case in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, about 2 hours west of Des Moines. It's a fast-growing Midwestern city where new high-rises and highways have not changed the small-town feel. That is, until the gruesome murder of Michelle Martinko changed everything. The sadistic attack on a teenager confirmed something most residents had refused to believe, that a big city crime could happen in their own backyard. December 20th, 1979. It was almost 2 a.m. on a cold December morning. And 18-year-old Michelle Martinko had still not come home from a night of holiday shopping.
Who reported her missing?
Her mother reported her missing. She had tried to call around to some friends, trying to find out if anyone had seen Michelle.
But no one had seen nor spoken with the responsible teenager in more than 4 hours.
My mother was very distraught about the whole evening.
Her parents told police that Michelle had attended a choir banquet that night. And afterwards, she had gone to the brand new Westdale Mall to check out a special Christmas gift her mother had picked out for her, a new fur coat.
She was going to look at a coat my mother had on layaway, try it on, see if she liked it. My sister had called from the shopping mall saying that she could not find the store.
During that phone call at 8:45 p.m., Michelle's mother gave her directions, and when they hung up, the teenager sounded excited.
She was specifically at the mall to look for a fur coat that her mom had put aside.
That conversation was the last time Michelle ever spoke with her loved ones. The mall closed at 10 p.m. And when she wasn't home by 11, Michelle's family was combing the city, searching for her.
My father went out looking for her, going to all the usual places where kids hang out, and he did not find her.
Michelle had simply vanished. Janet Martinko told police she was sure something terrible had happened.
She gave police a description of the car, mentioned that she had last been at Westdale Mall, and we sent Officer Jim Kincaid out to Westdale Mall to check.
As the officer drove through the now empty parking lot, he noticed a green and tan Buick parked in a dark corner far from the stores.
Officer Kincaid parked near her car and walked up from the back. Almost immediately, he could see that the windows were frosted over.
The door on the driver's side was unlocked, and when the officer opened it, he was stunned to see a young girl crumpled into the front passenger side of the car.
He was able to see Michelle laying on the seat and the floorboard. Almost immediately, he could see that this was a crime scene.
Blood and wisps of the fur coat Michelle already owned obscured his view. But one thing was painfully clear.
He could tell that she was deceased.
Detectives arrived moments later. The sheer violence of Michelle's murder was unlike anything Cedar Rapids police had ever seen.
How many times had Michelle been stabbed?
Well, Michelle had more than 20 knife wounds, cuts to her face, stab wounds to her chest, cuts to her hands. It was brutal.
How shocked was that police officer to find this victim in this horrible state?
It deeply affected him for his entire career.
The evidence indicated that the teenager had battled for her life.
Michelle had really deep defensive cuts in her hands, and I think she fought long and hard to prevent this.
Wedged underneath her lifeless body, investigators found her purse and the cash her mother had given her to buy the new coat.
Was it determined if anything went missing?
No, she still had her purse. She still had $180 cash. There was no evidence that anyone tried to rob her.
In fact, there was no clear sign of a motive.
Michelle was found fully clothed She had a black dress, she had her shoes still on, and she had pantyhose and underwear. There was no evidence that anyone had tried to forcibly undress her.
As detectives swabbed the blood-stained car and dusted it for fingerprints, they struggled to gather their emotions.
It was a time in Cedar Rapids where I think we still had a little bit of innocence and a little bit of naivety about just how big a town we were. We had a small town atmosphere, we still do, and we just didn't have high-profile murders.
But now they did. As investigators studied the totality of what they saw in the car, they began to formulate a theory of the type of suspect they were looking for. Did police believe whoever murdered Michelle was someone she knew?
With the absence of a sexual assault or a robbery, they start thinking, is the motive personal? Was someone angry at Michelle for something?
And that meant the hunt for a savage killer would begin close to home. Cedar Rapids police were investigating the vicious murder of Michelle Martinko. The high school senior had been found stabbed to death in the parking lot of what was then the city's brand new mall. As investigators searched for clues that might lead them to Michelle's killer, the teenager's loving family, including Michelle's sister Janelle and her husband John, were just getting the news. Who broke the news to you that Michelle had died?
Janet called when she said Michelle was murdered. I sat up straight in bed and it took my breath away.
You almost can't talk. It is just such a deep grief. It's just awful. We just hugged and cried.
The community rallied around the Martinkos. 18-year-old Michelle was outgoing, popular, and incredibly talented.
She did not have enemies. She was very well liked. She was very friendly. She would talk to anybody, and she was just kind.
What was it like for you to see Michelle come into her own?
It was really fun to watch her personality develop and blossom, watch her develop her talents, baton twirling, dance, music. She had a great joy of life.
What did she plan to do after she graduated?
She was going to college, and she was going to major in design. She was very excited about that.
But just days before Christmas, all of Michelle's dreams had ended during a brutal attack. Now, investigators trying to pick up her killer's trail had to focus on accounts from her friends and classmates about her final moments alive.
Did anyone actually see her when she arrived at the mall?
Yes. There were students that had seen her parking her car.
Michelle had entered the mall around 7:30 and spent time talking and browsing before calling her mother at 8:45.
My sister asked, "Where is this coat?" And my sister eventually got to the right store, tried on the coat, and didn't like it.
Michelle continued to socialize and shop.
Who did Michelle end up running into at the mall?
Michelle ran into a whole bunch of her friends. She ran into several of the boys from the choir, and then she ran into an old friend that she had met while working on a play at school named Kurt Thomas.
Kurt said he chatted with Michelle around 9 p.m.
Kurt worked at a store called Chess King, which was a men's clothing store, and Michelle walked by the store, and he decided to take his break at that time.
We had a conversation that lasted 30 minutes, and that's when I realized I had to get back. So she said she was gonna go home.
Kurt walked her to the mall exit. She was smiling as she waved goodbye. Kurt then went back into the store and helped his manager with a few last-minute shoppers before he punched out for the night.
There's the old good old-fashioned time clock that you punch. I pulled out time card, punched it.
The story meant Michelle had left the mall just before closing at 10 p.m. and Kurt's timeline was verified by another classmate. Who was the last person to see Michelle that night as she was leaving the mall?
The last person to see Michelle that night was a gal named Cheryl Anders. Cheryl was walking into the mall just as Michelle was leaving. She stopped for a minute and finished a cigarette, and she looked across the parking lot and saw Michelle walking to the general direction where her car was parked.
Police believe that was just minutes before Michelle was confronted by her killer. Based on the position her body was found in, how did the attack unfold?
I believe that Michelle was walking out to her car by herself. I think Michelle put her items that she had purchased at the mall in the back seat.
Michelle entered the car and put the key in the ignition.
And I think before she could put that car in drive, the suspect snuck up on her, grabbed the door handle, opened it, and immediately entered the car.
Michelle's autopsy added weight to that theory. The report indicated that a bruise on Michelle's head was likely the result of a blitz attack.
The suspect hit her probably with the butt of the knife in the side of the head, trying to incapacitate her.
The evidence indicated the deadly attack was carefully planned. Was it pretty clear to the technicians once they started collecting evidence that the killer had worn gloves?
Yeah, almost immediately. They identified glove prints on the outside of the car. It was right on the handle. And then once you get inside the car, you could see that same exact pattern on the steering wheel, on the gear shift.
The gloves appeared to have been rubber or latex.
I call them dishwashing gloves. And what they did is they went out and bought another set of dishwashing gloves, and they actually rolled them like you would roll someone's fingerprints for comparison. And that's how they positively identified what kind of gloves the suspect wore.
What did technicians end up collecting in terms of evidence?
In 1979, one of the things that you're wanting to collect is blood. To compare for blood typing. So they collected her clothing, they collected stuff that had blood on it.
But who would have wanted to kill Michelle in such a public place? Those closest to the teenager pointed to a former boyfriend who had been seen at the mall that night. Would you describe Andy, her ex-boyfriend, as the first person of interest?
Yes, I think he was a very clear first person of interest.
Could a bad breakup have led to the murder of Michelle Martinko? Police trying to solve the grisly murder of Michelle Martinko were convinced that her killer was someone she knew. She had been ambushed and stabbed more than 20 times in a rage-fueled attack. Detectives believed everyone the 18-year-old encountered that night had to be eliminated. And their list of potential suspects started with one person who appeared to have a motive, her ex-boyfriend, Andy. Do you understand why Michelle's ex-boyfriend was a person of interest in her murder?
Anytime there's a murder, very personal in nature, you always look to the people that are closest to them.
And almost immediately, investigators found additional clues. They were on the right track.
He had been at the mall the night that she was murdered and had actually talked to her. That makes it more suspicious.
Conversations with Michelle's loved ones raised even more red flags. Did your family suspect her ex-boyfriend, Andy, could have been involved?
We all thought he was involved. The night of her murder, my mother got a call saying, "Is Michelle there?" And it was from Andy. And my mother said, "Why is it that you want to know that?" And he said, "Well, because I have a Christmas gift for her."
The teenager's family believed that Andy's pursuit of Michelle a year after their breakup was troubling.
He was possessive. She had moved on. She was dating other guys.
You wonder two things. You wonder who and you wonder why. There was only one person in my mind that satisfied both of those questions, and that was Andy. And the motive would be, you know, if I can't have her, nobody else can.
Did you share your suspicions with the police about Andy's potential involvement?
Yes, I did.
And the family's concerns deepened during Michelle's funeral.
We knew that the killer had stabbed himself. Andy appeared at the funeral, sleeves well past his wrist, and I thought that he was covering up a wound with these long sleeves.
And his behavior only added to those suspicions.
Andy walked up to the casket and he fainted, and he was caught in the arms of his buddy.
Just hours after the memorial, detectives brought Andy in for an interview. Did Andy cooperate with the police?
Yes, he provided a real basic timeline for himself.
Andy insisted that his conversation with Michelle at the mall on the night of her murder was nothing more than a chance encounter. Police were skeptical. Did Andy have an alibi?
Yeah, Andy had a friend with him, and the two of them were at the mall briefly, and he bought her a Christmas present. And then they left, and then Andy was dropped off at home, and Andy's mother provided the alibi for the rest of the evening.
With only his mother to vouch for his whereabouts at the time of the attack, Andy faced a barrage of tough questions. Is it possible that his mother was telling the truth, that he came home at a specific time, but then could have snuck out of the house and gone to the mall without her knowing it?
Well, I think it's possible that he returned home, that mom sees him, and then mom goes to bed and doesn't know what he's doing for the next couple of hours. That alibi is not as rock solid as he would have liked it to be.
Police remained zeroed in on Andy, but they never found any physical evidence to place him at the crime scene.
And towards one person.
Next, investigators picked up on a tip about a man at the mall who had made several women shoppers uncomfortable as they walked to their cars. Some witnesses described seeing a strange-looking man in the parking lot the night of Michelle's murder. What kind of information did they provide?
They provided a description of someone they had seen in the parking lot that we were able to make into a sketch that was a white male with dark curly hair, possibly early 20s, could have potentially been by a car that looked similar to Michelle's car. That's all we had to go off of. They put that sketch out to the public.
Police ran down dozens of tips, but the unknown stranger was never found. As weeks turned into months, the Cedar Rapids Police Department remained determined to bring Michelle's killer to justice. Who else did police
look at as potential suspects?
Employees of the mall, anyone that would have had opportunity. And then, you know, what we always do is we start looking at people who are committing crimes like this that match the same MO as this particular crime.
The new angle on the case raised a possibility investigators hadn't yet considered. Was Michelle Martinko's murder part of a wave of disturbingly similar crimes in Cedar Rapids? Police investigating the savage attack on 18-year-old Michelle Martinko had retraced every step of her final night. A trail of sightings that ended just minutes before her murder. But despite the immense amount of hard work they had done chasing down every lead, the investigation was on the verge of stalling. Then, a case filled with frustration found a new direction. Alleged rapist Dennis McKee was arrested for breaking into a woman's home in Cedar Rapids. He was charged with attacking her at knife point.
Who was Dennis McKee, and why did investigators look into his background?
Dennis had committed some pretty horrific crimes himself.
Dennis McKee was a hardened criminal who was in the area at the time and had committed similar crimes.
And it was his weapon of choice, a knife, and the violent blitz-style attacks he had used against his victims that led detectives on the case to wonder if McKee had also been involved in Michelle's murder. Police questioned McKee, who repeatedly denied any involvement in the crime. But without physical evidence to connect him to Michelle's murder, the theory quickly lost steam. Law enforcement continued to dig and chase down every new lead, but each hit its own dead end.
Combing through records, trying to do background on them, you're really looking for a needle in a haystack. The Iowa Department of Criminal Investigation basically re-investigated the entire case and came with the same conclusion, that they were not settled on anyone as a suspect.
Investigators were back to square one.
Where did the case go from there?
I don't think anyone really knew what to do with it. I think it's officially pretty cold at that point.
The lack of progress was a crushing blow to Michelle's family.
It was so sad. Janet Martinko, Michelle's mother, she said she was brokenhearted.
It changed my parents' lives. They were never the same. My father was happy and carefree. After this, he would cry. My mother, who was normally a happy, kind of fun person, became very solitary.
Both of Michelle's parents died during the 1990s without ever knowing who killed their daughter. The case remained an open wound for Michelle's loved ones and many in the community. Every year at Christmas, the local media did stories about Michelle, and the call for justice led Cedar Rapids detective Doug Larison to reopen the case in 2005.
Is it true that you knew Michelle in high school?
Yes, I was actually 1 year ahead of her at Kennedy High School in Cedar Rapids. She was very sweet, very friendly.
Detective Larison desperately wanted to close the case and bring Michelle's killer to justice. And advances in forensic science had provided him a new lead to follow up on.
A gear shift selector from Michelle's car had been sent to the lab, and They had found a partial male DNA profile.
Were you hoping that might be the key to solving the case?
In my opinion, that DNA profile belonged to our killer. What I wanted to do was compile a list of potential suspects and start eliminating people.
Who were the first potential suspects you ended up testing?
Her ex-boyfriend, Andy, and there was another suspect by the name of Dennis McKee.
The results were surprising. Neither was a match. The outcome of the test brought an end to years of whispers and rumors that had tormented Michelle's ex-boyfriend. It must have been difficult for him to live all those years with this cloud of doubt hanging over him.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like for decades to know that people suspect you of killing Michelle Martinko. Andy was put through the ringer. He was innocent, and he wanted just to forget about this entire thing.
For Michelle's family, the news that her ex had been exonerated led to even more confusion and despair. Were you surprised when Andy was eliminated as a suspect?
We were so surprised. It just took the rug right out from under you. Then who could it possibly be?
Never did get a hit.
With no leads left to follow, Detective Larison retired and passed the case on to his colleague Matt Denlinger, with little hope that it would ever be solved. But the Michelle Martinko murder investigation was about to get a break that would bring the painful 39-year-old mystery to an unimaginable conclusion. Decades after the murder of Michelle Martinko, police finally had physical evidence, a DNA profile that could identify the teenager's killer. But when Detective Matt Denlinger took over the investigation, there were no suspects left to test. You grew up in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Your father was in law enforcement. How did you hear about this case for the first time?
I was 5 years old when this occurred, so by the time I was 10 years old and wanting to go to the mall with my friends, that's when you really start hearing about it from your parents.
Detective Denlinger started working on the case one day a week with the help of veteran investigator J.D. Smith.
J.D. would come in on Thursdays, and I loved to go talk to J.D. about why it was solvable, and it was kind of like a good book that you read a couple of chapters into, and now you're hooked and just got to finish it.
When I got involved in 2014, Matt and I decided to take off from where Doug had been, looking at everybody that had any contact with her.
They went back to the case file, hoping to find a detail that had been overlooked. Was it daunting to come up with new ways to look at this case?
Oh, definitely. It was very daunting to try to think that you could somehow think of something that hasn't been thought of in 35 years.
Then Detective Denlinger heard about a new technique called forensic genealogy that had just solved one of the country's most notorious cases.
In the spring of 2018, California officials arrested Joseph D'Angelo, the Golden State Killer, and they had done genealogy connecting relatives through the DNA. That she was likely a second cousin once removed from her suspect.
Brandy Jennings was stunned when she found out that her DNA might be the key to solving a decades-old murder.
I would watch true crime, things on TV. I never imagined my DNA would be a part of a cold case.
But there was still a tremendous amount of work finding out which of Brandy's relatives was the killer.
I was just so excited that we were able to move forward. I was too naive to realize how much work it was going to be.
So just how exhaustive was the process of winnowing down that family tree?
It's really time-consuming to identify a living relative from a set of great-great-grandparents. So I began digging up records, creating giant family trees on the wall in my office. I would cut and paste and tape them up there.
And that long list of names was slowly cut down to just 3 men. How optimistic were you when you finally got that list down to 3 brothers?
I was surprised that these 3 guys are still alive and they all still live in Iowa. We're gonna get a shot to do the one thing that we wanted to do when JD and I started this, which was interview her killer.
What did you do to figure out which brother was the likely killer?
No one stood out. They are all law-abiding, no major arrests, so there's no real red flags.
But without any probable cause for a warrant, police had to find a way to secretly obtain a DNA sample from each brother. Did you fear that any of the brothers would be aware they were under surveillance?
I put my trust in the guys, that they wouldn't blow their cover on it. But sure, you may be dealing with somebody who's been constantly looking over their shoulder for the last 39 years.
We covertly got DNA samples from all 3 brothers by following them around. They were sent into the lab.
And testing on those samples revealed the name of the new prime suspect in the murder of Michelle Martinko.
We were able to narrow it down to one brother, Jerry Burns from Manchester, Iowa.
Although investigators had been waiting more than 40 years to be face-to-face with Michelle's killer, they made the calculated decision to wait just a few more days before confronting Jerry Burns. You strategically picked the date of that interview. It fell on the anniversary of the death of Michelle. What were you hoping that would trigger?
Hello. Hey, how are you today? Jerry, my name's Matt.
Well, I was hoping that that would trigger some sort of guilt reaction from him. I was hoping that every year on that date, he watched the news just like we did, and maybe it bothered him that they kept showing images of Michelle.
During the interview at Burns' office, Detective Denlinger asked if there was a reason why his blood was found in Michelle Martinko's car.
How would we get your DNA at the crime scene there, Jerry?
I don't know. Test it, see if it is.
No, we did. How would it be there, Jerry?
I don't know.
What happened that night?
Wait for the test to come back.
Jerry,
I don't think it did.
Prosecutor Nick Maybanks watched the contentious conversation unfold. You monitored the interrogation. Which answers did you find incriminating that Burns gave?
More than one of his answers, for sure. I mean, it was pretty evident that he was not reacting in a manner in which I would presume or expect an innocent person to act. What are you doing here? You have the wrong guy.
Denlinger then asked his prime suspect point blank if he had killed Michelle Martinko.
Did you murder someone that night, Jerry?
Test the DNA.
Jerry.
Test the DNA.
Why did this happen, Jerry?
Test the DNA.
What happened?
I don't know.
Burns never confessed, but at the end of the interview, he was placed under arrest. When police shared the news with Michelle's stunned family, they tried to find meaning in the senseless crime. What did you end up finding out about Burns?
He did not know her. He picked her out of a crowd at the shopping mall. He was going to kill someone that night. On some level, it was a relief to know it wasn't personal. It was totally random. He was evil and sick.
trial, prosecutor Nick Maybanks was under intense pressure to close the case that haunted Cedar Rapids and Michelle's family for so long. What did you think was the most critical evidence you had against Burns?
100%, without a doubt, the most critical evidence was the DNA. The DNA was irrefutable in this case, whether or not we had any other evidence, because it was so critical and was so compelling.
In the end, the jury agreed. Burns was found guilty of the murder of Michelle Martinko. And while no one knows why a man with no prior criminal record committed such a heinous crime, investigators have their theories of what happened that night. How did the attack unfold?
I think Michelle got into her car, and I think before she could put that car in drive, our suspect had grabbed the door handle and immediately entered the car. Right away, he's got a knife in his hand, and he's pushing Michelle back onto the seat, and she decides, I'm not gonna go down without a fight. I think that he tries to hit her in the head to knock her out so that he can sexually assault her, and that didn't work. And that's when he started stabbing her.
Jerry Burns now faces life behind bars. Michelle's loved ones are grateful for the dedication, ingenuity, and resolve of everyone who worked on the case, ending a long and tormenting journey to justice. The grieving process for a loved one really never ends. But I'm curious if the guilty verdict has allowed you a new balance in your life.
Yes, the word closure doesn't quite fit because Michelle is no longer with us. I think balance is what we feel. Every Christmas has been sort of forced merriment because that empty chair is always there, and it should be filled by Michelle, and it's not.
When you think of your sister today, what do you remember most about her?
How happy she was. And how she had her own mind. I just remember a very secure girl who knew where she was going. She had her plans. She was going to have a very interesting life. I would have loved to have seen this. Those things we could have shared together, that is just such a loss.
After solving the nearly 40-year-old Michelle Martinko case, investigator Matt Denlinger was honored with the state of Iowa's Officer of the Year Award. Kudos to Matt and the entire law enforcement team for their hard work. I'm Paula Zahn. Please join us next time when we're back on the case. You had worked hundreds of missing persons cases. How alarmed were you?
Something was wrong with this situation.
Where's Ashley? Where's the baby? There's just a gut feeling that something wasn't right. The pictures that we found were sexually explicit.
I perceived that as degrading to Ashley.
They were alarming.
The neighbor heard what she thought was somebody falling down the stairs.
Someone might have gotten severely hurt, if not killed.
They had left the area because there had been a, quote, massive fight.
They had located his vehicle and they are in a position to intercept him.
What did investigators find when they searched his parents' home?
Authorities located a reciprocating saw that still contained blood and tissue in the blade.
It was like a punch in the gut.
I'm Paula Zahn, and tonight we're on the case in Boulder, Colorado. The city, known for its breathtaking views and laid-back lifestyle, became the setting for a terrifying mystery when a young mother named Ashley Mead vanished. At first, investigators found few clues to explain her disappearance. But slowly over time, a disturbing trail of evidence began to emerge. And as investigators followed that path across the country, a shocking and heartbreaking crime was revealed. Tuesday, February 14th, 2017. It was 9:20 on a cool, crisp morning when a coworker contacted Boulder police to report 25-year-old Ashley Mead missing. What did the caller have to say?
The caller was a coworker at Head Start Preschool where Ashley had been working, and she called to say that Ashley had not shown up for work, and she was concerned.
Although she was still just an intern, Ashley's devotion to the preschool program was obvious. She was the mother of a toddler herself and simply loved being around children. The 25-year-old's warm sense of humor and strong work ethic had quickly made her lots of friends at the school.
The coworker gave her a couple of calls, a couple of texts, tried to get in contact with her with no response. So that was just really alarming to her.
So she clearly was a reliable employee.
Absolutely. For her not to be there and not to call was very out of character.
Investigators went to check on the young mother and her 13-month-old daughter, Winter Daisy.
Behind me is Ashley's apartment complex. When police officers arrived, her car was not in its parking space.
It was a white Volvo. It was nowhere to be seen.
Detectives then made their way to Ashley's apartment.
The front door was unlocked. When they went inside, the lights had been left on.
The open door was puzzling, but it didn't raise red flags. Were there any signs of a struggle inside the apartment?
No signs of a struggle, nothing that really looked out of sorts.
Investigators noted other clues that did seem troubling. Ashley's cat had been left unattended, and a partially cooked dinner was found in the kitchen.
The oven was open, but off.
So it looked like someone had left sort of quickly or unexpectedly.
Was it possible that Ashley just needed some time away and was out of town for a couple of days?
Absolutely. You have to look at all sides and all possibilities, and I felt that there was a possibility that she had just taken off.
But as investigators studied the apartment carefully, they found several items that appeared to contradict that theory.
Her driver's license was left behind, as well as her purse and some of her personal belongings. Additionally, her cell phone was left on the very end of the stairs.
That, of course, raised a huge red flag for them.
What did they make of the fact that her cell phone was still there?
Ashley was a 25-year-old woman, and it's very uncommon in this day and age for people to leave home without taking their phone with them.
Why, if she left voluntarily, would she have left her phone and her ID behind?
All of those things combined were concerning enough to us to say that something happened here.
A closer inspection of Ashley's cell phone revealed a disturbing clue.
There was a tread mark on the screen of the phone, and it looked like the last person to have contact with that phone stepped on her phone and just placed it up on the banister.
The tread mark appeared to have been left by a boot and changed investigators' thoughts on Ashley's disappearance.
The tread mark on the cell phone, that told me that even more so there was some sort of struggle.
Still, police contacted Ashley's mother in Pennsylvania to see if there might be a less alarming explanation for what they found. Had Ashley ever left town before without telling anyone?
She didn't necessarily tell me she was leaving Boulder, but when we found out the cat was there, that's when I really started getting concerned.
Claudia said that her daughter always traveled with her cat, and she asked investigators if they had spoken with Adam Densmore, Daisy's father.
Adam Densmore was her ex-boyfriend. They were still living together, though.
They had a 13-month-old daughter together that they were co-parenting and raising within that house.
Officers called Adam's cell phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Then, police took their efforts to find him one step further. Were you able to locate him?
There were efforts to ping his phone. The phone had been turned off and wasn't active on the network. The officers were not able to locate his phone.
With Ashley, Adam, and their baby girl missing, veteran detective Jeremy Frenzen was left with an ominous feeling about the case. You had worked hundreds of missing persons cases. How alarmed were you?
When all three of them, including the baby, were missing, then I was alarmed. Something was wrong with this situation.
Where's Ashley? Where's Adam? Where's the baby? Is the baby safe? There's just a gut feeling that something wasn't right.
After 25-year-old Ashley Mead had been reported missing by her coworkers, police visited her Boulder, Colorado home and discovered puzzling evidence. There were no obvious signs of a struggle or foul play, but her car was not in its parking spot, and her 13-month-old daughter Daisy was also gone. The clues indicated that Ashley might have simply taken off for a few days. But when the detectives found that the young mother's cell phone, glasses, and driver's license were still in her apartment, it raised more troubling possibilities.
Is she really just gone? Did she leave and take the baby with her? Or has something more nefarious happened?
Investigators hope that Adam Densmore might be able to provide answers to those questions. The father of Ashley's daughter still shared an apartment with her and Daisy, even though he and Ashley were no longer a couple. But Adam was missing as well, and his cell phone had been turned off.
The car was gone, Ashley was gone, Adam was gone, and their child, Winter Daisy, was gone as well.
Police continued the search for Adam while retracing Ashley's last known movements, a trail that seemed to come to a sudden end on Sunday, February 12th, 2 days before she was reported missing. What did the timeline you put together reveal about Ashley's last known whereabouts?
We knew that about 11:15 on Sunday the 12th, she had been at Target. She took some selfies in a black dress in the dressing room.
Ashley spent the rest of the day running routine errands, nothing that indicated she had planned on leaving town.
Throughout the day, she had been in and out at the apartment. We obtained video of her and Winter Daisy at about 4:40 at Sprouts.
Did her behavior at the store seem at all strange?
Not at all. She was carrying Winter Daisy. They stood in line, left the store. Everything looked 100% normal at 4:40 on Sunday.
The late afternoon grocery store purchases were Ashley's last transaction.
That was the last time that that credit card was ever used.
Less than an hour later, Ashley was seen outside of her apartment.
A neighbor, when officers canvassed the apartment complex, said that they had observed Ashley around 5:30 on Sunday the 12th going to the trash dumpster.
Ashley's cell phone records help pinpoint the time frame when Ashley and her baby suddenly disappeared. Based on everything you knew so far, when do you think she went missing?
They were able to determine that all of her social media communications and activity on her phone, the last activity was about 8:40 p.m. on Sunday.
On your phone, there's always a trail, and at this point with Ashley, it just stopped.
And that was the last anybody heard from her?
Correct.
And that led police to a troubling conclusion. Ashley had likely been missing for more than 48 hours.
Law enforcement was a few days behind.
A canvass of Ashley's building revealed an even bigger problem. Her next-door neighbor reported hearing a loud noise from Ashley's apartment just after 9 that Sunday night.
They shared a wall in this apartment complex. She heard what she thought was somebody falling down the stairs. She knew that it had come from next door. She was worried that someone had been hurt.
Did she hear anyone scream or anyone call out for help?
She didn't hear anything else other than just that commotion of the stairs.
It definitely raises a lot of concern that someone might have gotten severely hurt, if not killed.
Those concerns made getting in touch with everyone close to Ashley a top priority. And a call to Adam Densmore's parents in Louisiana gave them their first break in the case. The couple said they had just ended a short visit with their son and their granddaughter Daisy. Investigators were relieved to hear the 13-month-old was safe. But they were deeply concerned to learn that Ashley had not been with them. And detectives were also frustrated that Adam was already back on the road.
Did he tell them where he planned to go next?
He was going to go visit his grandma in Conway, Arkansas.
Adam's parents said there were large portions of the drive to Arkansas where he might be out of cell range. Still, the investigators went to work attempting to verify his whereabouts through the GPS coordinates of Adam's phone. When you pinged Adam's cell phone, did it in fact confirm that he was on his way to his grandmother's house?
Yes, we did get information from his cell phone, and we knew that Adam had gone to visit his grandma.
And there was confirmation on Ashley's cell phone. It revealed Adam had called and texted Ashley numerous times with updates on his road trip with their daughter. There was one message that seemed to explain why Adam had taken Daisy with him on the long drive. Ashley had a new man in her life.
Adam is saying, you have fun with him. There was an identification as to who him was.
But a deeper dive into Ashley's phone records gave police a clear picture of who that him might be. And it also offered a disturbing glimpse into a dark and potentially dangerous new romance. Police in Boulder, Colorado were investigating the disturbing disappearance of 25-year-old Ashley Mead. And detectives knew they had already lost a lot of ground in their race against time.
She didn't just up and leave, and so it was imperative for us to try to find her.
Her last known movements indicated that the young mother had already been missing for 2 days. And police investigators were scrambling to catch up.
We're working against the clock, trying as fast as we can to make up that time to figure out what happened.
Detectives were relieved to discover that Ashley's former boyfriend, Adam Densmore, and their 13-month-old daughter, Daisy, were alive and well. But for the time being, the two were out of cell phone range while enjoying a road trip to visit family.
He was on his way to his grandmother's house in Conway, Arkansas.
But calls and messages that Adam had left on Ashley's cell phone earlier in his trip redirected the investigation.
The last phone calls that we had into Ashley's phone from Adam were the night of the 12th. He called 4 different times. He left her a message about Ashley running off. You're probably with him.
An examination of Ashley's cell phone records quickly revealed the identity of the mysterious him Adam was referring to.
We learned that Ashley was dating someone named Harvey and that the two met online.
What did you find out about that man?
Ashley and Harvey had been dating just for a couple of weeks. It was a new relationship.
She was talking to Harvey on a regular basis. The two had actually met up and were intimately involved.
As police studied the couple's communications, critical details stood out.
Did Harvey have any contact with Ashley the day she went missing?
He did have contact with her, yes.
Detectives wondered if Ashley's last series of errands, including buying a new dress that day, had been in anticipation of a date with Harvey.
The suspicions were mainly from the fact that she was communicating with a new boyfriend. We had no idea what relationship they had.
But text messages about experimenting with bondage, along with the disturbing photographs they had exchanged, immediately raised red flags.
The pictures that we found between Ashley and Harvey were sexually explicit.
When you saw the sexually explicit photos, how much more did it raise your concerns?
I was concerned. The photos had some degradation to them that made me uncomfortable. I perceived that as degrading to Ashley.
The photos also hinted at the possibility of violence.
They were alarming. And then the two didn't know each other that well, so Harvey was pretty high up on our radar.
Investigators immediately tracked down Harvey at his residence, about 30 miles outside of Boulder. What steps did you take to investigate Harvey?
We sent a team of detectives to Harvey's house. They did an interview. They did a search of his home.
Investigators found no signs of Ashley. What was his reaction to the fact that Ashley had gone missing?
He was concerned about the fact that we were looking at him with suspicion.
During the interview, Harvey also seemed concerned about Ashley.
He was forthcoming with his relationship with Ashley. He talked about the pictures that they shared together, how they met, and their relationship as a whole.
He provided us photographs and allowed us to look at his phone.
And Harvey repeatedly denied seeing Ashley on the night of her disappearance.
He was very cooperative. He came to the police department voluntarily to talk to us, to try to help us piece things together, where he was and who he was with on that day.
The story included witnesses who were with Harvey during the window of time leading up to when Ashley went missing.
He had picked up some friends from the airport, and they spent time together. His friend actually lost her purse, and they had to file a police report for that missing purse.
The incident was documented and time-stamped.
We ultimately found the police report for the missing purse.
Did you find his alibi rock solid?
Yes, I knew that he was not involved.
And Harvey's cell phone records confirmed his story.
We tracked down his cell phone data through GPS. We found that Harvey was not anywhere near Ashley's apartment the day that Ashley went missing.
With Harvey eliminated, detectives were now back to square one, and 25-year-old Ashley Mead was still missing. And with each moment that passed, it seemed less likely she would be found alive. Police investigating the disappearance of 25-year-old Ashley Mead had just cleared her new boyfriend, Harvey, and were now focused on tracking down her ex, Adam Densmore. Detectives knew that Densmore and the couple's daughter, Daisy, were on their way to his grandmother's house in Arkansas. But so far, they had still been unable to speak with him. Adam's cell phone was either turned off or out of cell tower range.
We want to try to get in touch with him to try to get some more information about how the baby is, where's Ashley, all the questions we have running through our head.
Investigators contacted Adam's grandmother to tell him to call as soon as he arrived.
Adam's grandmother told Adam, Ashley's missing and you need to call police, and he freaked out.
But instead of immediately contacting police, Adam jumped back into his car with his daughter and called investigators from the road several hours later. When Adam called police, what did he have to say?
They had about a 30-minute phone conversation about Ashley being missing. And Adam told the detective he had left the area to go visit his parents because there had been a, quote, massive fight.
Investigators recorded the entire call.
Winter's with you?
She's in her seat, man. She was crying when I called, and as soon as he picked up, she stopped.
I just want to make sure she's okay. When was the last time you talked to Ashley?
Sunday night. We got into a massive fight, probably the worst fight we have ever been in. And I left because it was going to escalate into physicality, and I needed to get out of there. I took Winter, and I just started driving.
Adam said that during his drive to his parents' house in Louisiana, he tried to contact Ashley several times and was now panicked to hear she was missing.
I called her, left a few messages. I've been texting and Facebook messaging her, and I thought she wasn't messaging me back because she was angry. And then I get this information last night that's like, oh God, freaking out.
Did he have any idea where Ashley was?
No, he did tell the detective, I haven't heard from her, I'm worried about her.
Did he say where he was going next?
Adam told us that he was actually on his way back to Boulder to come meet with us and talk to us more about the case.
But investigators were still considering if they were going to wait that long. State patrolmen in Oklahoma were following close behind Ashley's white Volvo that Adam was driving.
They are indicating they're in a position to intercept him.
Prosecutor Ken Kuffner weighed his options. Although he wanted to have police pull Adam over, he still had no tangible evidence connecting Adam to Ashley's disappearance. What was your fear at that point?
You would have no basis to hold him at this point. We had no idea where Ashley was. We don't really know what happened. So at that point, trying to figure out what to do was the biggest question.
And there was another issue that had to be considered. How worried were you about the baby as this was playing out?
We were concerned. All indications were that he had been a pretty good father, but we really had no idea what was going on inside of Adam's head.
If Adam was responsible for Ashley's disappearance, was 13-month-old Daisy now in danger? How much pressure did you feel to bring him in?
I think the biggest pressure that we felt at that point in time was the safety of Daisy. We wanted to make sure that she was accounted for and safe.
Ultimately, it was Winter Daisy herself who gave investigators a reason to pull Adam over. Since Adam's name had not been listed on his daughter's official birth record, an out-of-state trip without Ashley's permission was against the law. District Attorney Kuffner immediately requested Oklahoma police to arrest him.
They moved in quickly to take him into custody.
When police stopped Adam, he seemed confused but cooperative. What condition was Daisy in?
Daisy was in good condition.
She was healthy and safe. That was just a big weight off of our shoulders.
After his arrest, Adam Densmore refused to speak with detectives and asked for an attorney. But he did answer questions posed by a representative from Social Services about Winter Daisy. During the videotaped interview, he also added more details about his last argument with Ashley.
Tell me about the fight.
I slapped her.
Okay.
I'm very. That was the absolute second I knew I gave up.
Photographs of Adam's body offered clues that his altercation with Ashley may have been much more extensive than a slap. As investigators took a closer look at Adam, what stood out to them?
Adam looked like he had been in a fight. Adam had a huge bite mark on his chest. He had scratches all over his body. He had bruised knuckles.
It made me very worried. I was concerned that something bad had happened to her.
Forensic experts examined the white Volvo Adam had been driving for evidence that might reveal the most pressing issue on investigators' minds.
Given the injuries on Adam's body, we certainly had lots of questions about where Ashley was, if she was safe, what had happened to her.
But even investigators who feared the worst could never have imagined the shocking answers to those questions. Police investigating the disappearance of 25-year-old Ashley Mead had just taken her former boyfriend, Adam Densmore, into custody. Visible injuries on his body and statements he made about a massive fight with Ashley quickly made Densmore the prime suspect in the case. As the news spread about Adam's arrest, Ashley's loved ones were relieved to hear that her daughter, Winter Daisy, was safe, but there were no other details police could provide that eased their concerns. When you found out Daisy was with her father and Ashley was nowhere to be seen, is that the point where you began to worry?
Yes, they found Daisy without her. I knew it wasn't going to be good.
That's when the terror set in. Ashley was not away from that baby for 5 minutes. She just loved that baby so much.
Investigators believe that Adam Densmore was responsible for Ashley's disappearance, but they still had no evidence she had even been the victim of foul play. Then, police received a call from Adam's sister in Louisiana. She told a disturbing story about her interaction with him during his visit to their parents' home. She said her parents were at work and her arrival seemed to startle him.
He was very excited to see Adam and Daisy. She walked in the house. Adam appeared shocked to see her. He was not expecting her.
The young woman told police that she noticed signs that her brother had been cleaning up a mess.
She also told us that she smelled a strong odor of bleach.
Did she ask him about that?
She did. He told her that he had become nauseous and had vomited all over the bathroom and needed to use bleach to clean it up. I think she believed him at first, and then the more that she thought about it, the more she became suspicious.
For detectives, her story was alarming. And while police were dispatched to search the Densmore's family home for evidence, an even more disturbing report was being taken by police in Okmulgee, Oklahoma. What did the caller report?
The gas station attendant had gone out to take the trash to a dumpster. When she looked into the dumpster and saw a purple suitcase, curiosity got the best of her.
The woman unzipped the suitcase and made a chilling discovery.
Inside the suitcase was a human torso.
She called 911 just completely in a panic.
When police arrived, there was no clothing or any personal items in the suitcase to identify the victim.
The medical examiner examined the torso and found that her head, legs, and arms had been removed. For someone to cut apart another human being, it was surreal.
During the autopsy, a critical clue led to a heartbreaking discovery. Were there any markings on the victim's body?
Yes, there was a gapped tooth sun tattoo on her back. Ashley was well known to have a sublime sun tattoo.
The tattoo was nearly identical to one of the popular rock band's album covers, except Ashley had added a unique twist to her version. The smiling sun had a space between its two front teeth, just like Ashley's. The tattoo convinced investigators that the victim had been the missing mother, and DNA analysis confirmed the terrible truth. The Ashley Mead missing persons case had just turned into a homicide investigation. What went through your mind when you were informed that the victim was Ashley Mead?
There was definitely a sense of sorrow as well as disappointment by everybody involved.
My stomach just sank. It was devastating. It was like a punch in the gut.
Due to the condition of Ashley's remains, the medical examiner was not able to establish the cause of her death. But he did document other injuries that told a grisly story of the young mother's struggle for survival.
It was clear that Ashley had been in a significant struggle, abrasions and contusions on the back. Those injuries happened while she was still alive.
When Ashley's loved ones heard the news, their pain was almost unbearable. How did you deal with the fact that when it was ultimately confirmed that they had found Ashley?
My daughter's dead. I cried a lot.
Ashley's best friend Morgan was almost as devastated.
That was probably like the worst moment of my life. And I was just sobbing.
While loved ones tried to come to terms with their loss, investigators were analyzing video from surveillance cameras at the gas station where Ashley's remains had been recovered. When you watched the surveillance video from the gas station, what did you see?
We saw the white Volvo pull up to a dumpster, discard the suitcase.
The images were grainy and shot from a distance, but they ultimately told a terrifying story. And more incredibly disturbing evidence was found by crime scene analysts in Louisiana, in the backyard of Densmore's parents' home.
They located a shed behind the residence, and in that shed, they found a barbecue grill cover. That grill cover had a significant amount of blood on the inside. In that same shed, authorities in Louisiana located a reciprocating saw. It still contained blood and tissue in the blade and in the area of the guard.
And testing of that saw revealed the grim truth. Did the saw have Ashley's DNA on it?
It did, yes.
Monday night, Ashley was last seen.
What do you think happened to Ashley the day she was killed?
I believe that Ashley and Adam had a fight, and that fight stemmed from Adam's jealousy that she was seeing new people. That the massive fight that he described did happen in that apartment.
Investigators believe it was during that struggle that Adam stepped on the screen of Ashley's cell phone, and the soles of the shoes he was wearing when he was arrested proved it.
I was able to match up the bottom of Adam's footwear to this tread mark on the cell phone.
Detectives theorized that the loud thumps Ashley's neighbor heard the night she disappeared were Densmore dragging her body down the stairs after he killed her.
I believe she was strangled. I believe her lifeless body was taken out of the house and put into the Volvo, driven from Boulder to Louisiana, where Adam dismembered her and had plans to spread her body throughout the United States as he traveled back to Boulder.
And each element of that terrifying theory was backed up by physical evidence. Still, Adam Densmore pled not guilty to the first-degree murder of Ashley Mead.
What was his defense at trial?
One of the things that we could never prove in the case is how Ashley was murdered. So the defense really hit on that fact that we didn't prove that beyond a reasonable doubt.
But any doubt created by dismembering Ashley's body had no impact on the final decision. On April 4th, 2018, Densmore was found guilty of Ashley's murder and several other charges related to the crime.
Guilty, guilty, guilty.
He was sentenced to life, plus 12 years in prison without parole. After the verdict, Ashley's family approached the Densmore family in the courtroom.
There was a poignant moment after the conviction where you approached Adam's mother. What did you say to her?
I'm so sorry. We cried together. She very much lost her son the same time I lost my daughter.
To this day, Densmore refuses to reveal what happened the day of Ashley's murder or where he disposed of the rest of her remains.
Were you hoping that at some point Adam would confess to the murder?
I think it would bring us all some closure because we don't really know where the rest of her body is, so it would be nice to have a confession and some sort of remorse.
Ashley's family has tried to put their pain behind them and focus on their loving memories of Ashley, her unwavering devotion to her baby girl, and her incredible zest for life.
How hard has it been for you since Ashley was killed?
It's been 3 years and it still feels like yesterday. Definitely the hardest thing I've ever been through. I miss her a whole lot.
She just was not afraid of anything, just brave, and like she knew she didn't have long on this earth and she wanted to cram as much into her time that she had. I'm sorry.
Following Adam Densmore's conviction, Ashley's remains were finally released to her family. It was only then, more than a year and a half after her murder, that loved ones could have a funeral and honor the young woman they all loved so much. I'm Paula Zahn. Please join us next time when we're back on the case.